of this, which is exciting. Make sure we get it all to the proper channels. And I also want to deliver a happy Father's Day, Carl.
Thank you. And
Happy
you too.
Father's Day. Hope it's been a great day. I hope you're doing well today.
Same to you, man. I started it off with a bunch of Frisbee golf.
Really?
Yeah.
I tried Frisbee golf one time. I was horrible at it. And then, needless to say, I've not been Frisbee golfing since. I'd like to be better at it, but it's just not in my wheelhouse quite yet.
Right on. Okay.
Any advice are you a good Frisbee golfer?
Well, just probably like everything, I take a look at YouTube for any advice, suggestions, and then I just go and stumble around until I start getting a little bit of groove. And that's what I did.
Love it, love it, love it. Great to know it. Are you having a pretty good day all in all? It's kind of another day, or is it a pretty good day? Anything?
No, it's been a very special 3 days, actually, Friday, Saturday, and today, because both my sons, I have two sons, 21 and 19, and they both got together to take me out to dinner, and my girlfriend made me a dinner, and we went Frisbee golfing now 2 days. I mean, just a lot of activities, watching movies. It's been loaded with stuff.
Congratulations. Glad it's been a good day. That's always great to know. All right, I guess we'll hop into the officials while folks, may pop in and see where we're up to right now. Everyone watching this right now, I want to welcome you all to an interview with not just what I would say a business strategist and author, but a true motivator, not just by words, but by actions, and author of and creator of Mondays Reimagined, which really tips the scales for me, because here it is on Sunday, if you're watching this live, and usually the day that people dread is Monday. But here we are, able to have a discussion about reimagining those exact Mondays. Mr. Carl Loop, so wherever you are, clap your hands and stump your feet. Mr. Carl Loop, officially again. Carl, how you feeling today?
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Stan. Great fortunes to everyone and fullest life.
Oh, great fortune and fullest life. Love it. So let's hop right into it. Why Mondays? Like, why is that a day that you went forward and that you kind of crafted the notion of being able to reimagine it?
Well, it's just a crazy thing. There's so many things that don't succeed very well, but specifically Mondays, a shocking 75% of people are dreading Mondays, and those blues and dreads start setting in the head, usually Sunday, midday, all the way into the evening. And they wake up with I know what it's like to be dreading Mondays. I know what it's like to be dreading Mondays. I was in some situations in my life, including the lowest point of my life, where I had a divorce, a custody battle, and then a hurricane hit my waterfront home, all within 1 year.
In 1 year, divorce, custody battle, and
right. And so Sundays I usually had to drop the kids off, during mixed custody and so forth. And Mondays were just the weight of the world came onto me every Monday. And it wasn't just for a month or two. I mean, it was 5, 10, 15 years.
Really?
Yeah.
What was it that finally, struck you and you said, hey, I have to do something about this. I have to shift. I have to reimagine this day, or, and work beyond kind of what you've been affected by and experiencing.
Well, the thing is, Stan, my entire life was everything I thought had such meaning. It was such, the thing you struggled for, and the things that, you take a stand for, all these possessions and financial things. I had been hijacked. I'd been hijacked into thinking that, financial success was the only measure of success.
Wow.
And that was my big awakening, is that it could really mean very little. And it started to actually mean very, very little to me. In fact, I had lots of pleasures in my life, and they started mattering less and less and less until I just felt empty inside. And that's, until I just started feeling empty inside, and, I was successful but miserable. And before things got better, they got horribly worse. That's when I went through, the custody battle, the divorce, and the hurricane hitting my waterfront home, as I was just telling you.
Right, and it's like there's no warning to some of those things. It feels like they just happen. Do you think that happens to folks where they're, let's say, not prepared for the worst, and then all of a sudden it just goes bang, 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 and knocks them out?
It can happen in many different ways. We have like 3 versions of ourselves, if you want to look at it like that. There's a default version, a what's possible version, and achieve the impossible version of us, okay? And we've all achieved the impossible. We all achieved something we had thought was impossible. But what tends to happen is we back up and we start living our default automated life. Like, robotic existence, routine, assembly line, gerbil wheel. That's how people describe this. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, for me, the default got amplified until it had to be destroyed. I had to find some new way of living, some purpose for my life, just to go on living after those events.
Wow. And so here we are, Mondays reimagined. And what does that entail for you? Or let's say there's someone watching this, listening right now, and they dread Monday. They can't stand, or they've always been haunted by Monday. What steps can they take to improve what happens tomorrow and how they view it?
Absolutely. I thought you might ask me that.
This maybe is my chance. That was the slow pitch softball right there.
Well, okay. So, remember, as I said, there's three versions of us. There's the automated sort of default version of us. It just sort of kicks in. It's autopilot. And it's really not very positive, Stan. It's usually, kick you when you're down, doubt you when you're up. And there's a state of mind where in the default where probably according to research and conversations I've had and PhDs who really dig into this stuff, over 45% of our thoughts are about the past or about the future, right? So we're either troubled about the past or concerned about the future about half the time. And then the other half the time, just gets kind of taken up with routine and automated thinking, automated living, and so forth. So that's the horrible default. And it's a reactive way we live our lives, right? So instead of sort of living our life by our design, the circumstances and everything outside sort of puts us on these, strings, like a puppet on the strings, and we're just constantly doing the dance of circumstances. That's the default. So you asked me, but you can interrupt me anytime. But
no, please.
You did ask me, what are some things to sort of start lifting up and lifting through? And I always say, I do a lot of quotes. One of the quotes I have is, we weren't born to live the default ordinary life we were given. We were born to live the magical, extraordinary life we create. Okay, and that's really the difference between default, what's possible, and accomplish the impossible, and that is create. Instead of living our life like an engineer, totally optimizing, living by spreadsheet, always looking for save this, save that, glass half full, we have to start turning that around into a higher than default version of ourselves. And one way to do that is to become proactive and intentional. And so we start having wins. We stop counting problems and possessions, and we start counting wins and wonders in our life.
Counting wins and wonders. I'm certainly going to quote you on that. That's powerful. Thank you. Thank you for I'm going to quote you a lot already. Even after our pre-production meeting, I'm like, yeah, this guy's good. Really quick, during our conversation before, you mentioned how we are almost trained into being more transactional. Can you speak to that for folks that may not understand what that means by just living this transactional existence or being trained to be transactional?
Yeah, sure. Like I said, transactional is you're being hijacked by trying to put everything into a yes or a no. Okay, is it a sale or not a sale? Am I going to be on time or not on time? Did I convince that person or not that person? Is that person a friend of mine or not a friend of mine? So everything has to be totally polarized. Okay, that's transactional, and usually it's what we're most familiar is transactional according to, financial things, right? Zeros and commas.
Yes.
Did I add a comma? Did I add a zero? Did I save a comma? Did I save a zero? And everything gets stripped down to basically the carrot and the stick. If I do this, then I have that transactional type of living, and it's a place where. In my case, I spent over 20 years of my life, I lost my passion, my creativity, and I lost who I was for over 20 years of my life.
Wow. So you've clearly, rediscovered that piece and, what mattered and what makes you feel alive. And I know that you've, had some other creations. I know we discussed the 52 Mondays as
Yeah.
well as the 7 powers of purpose.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, I want to say a quiz that goes along with that as well. Can you mention, like, just speak to those two a little bit? Obviously the 52 Mondays and then the 7 powers of purpose, because I believe they can go to your website and kind of take the quiz
Sure.
and figure themselves out a little bit.
Well, so as I was saying, we want to start our journey, right? Our journey from the default into more of the transformed version of us, okay? So, my book has 52 Mondays, and every Monday, now you can read it all in one day, or you can, however you wish to do it, but it's specifically on Mondays. You can go into Monday armed with some proactive things you can do, armed with some wins that you can create, armed with some beautiful new perspective about your life. We're having a little thunder here.
Oh yeah, here too.
And, when I moved to Texas over 10 years ago, I had 2 goals. I just had 2 goals. And those 2 goals were that I would stop honking my horn almost every day out of frustration, agitation, and anger. And the other goal was that I would just be able to have just one happy thought a day. That's how cornered into my emptiness that I was. Okay. So this book is about transformation, which is part of your journey, right? So
Yes.
you have the default, as I said, then you have professional and personal development is sort of the next level, where some of the intrinsic being, the inside, I call it inside up. To go up, you don't go outside in, you go inside out, inside up. Okay. And then the highest level of you is where you have, as a leader, started to live a life more proactively, almost not at all transactionally. You have joy, you have giving, you have aliveness, and you live a very intrinsic life. You live your life from who you are rather than for something. Rather than for something, which is transaction, you live from something, from who you are. And that's what the book is. That's
From
right.
who you are, not for. Wow. Okay, so I
Not
also
for a thing,
not
but
for a
from
thing.
who you are.
From who you are, pulling from the things that exist within you to find greater purpose and vision.
Intrinsically, so that you go inside up. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And I know we kind of discussed, people that, might be wondering, am I one of these folks? And really quick, I'll just tell them myself. All right. It's interesting you mentioned, obviously finding joy, but making sure that you're not in the car and try not to honk at least one time a day. And I tell you what, I'm being worked on right now. That's working on my spirit. Now I just kind of do like baby honks. Now I've never laid into the horn, but I wasn't shy with the horn. But now I do like tee, just to let folks stand. There's a lot of work that Stan has to do, but now it's not the it's like beep beep, and I'm like Anyway, so I felt like I needed to say that.
There you go.
Progress. I'm just going to call it thank you for being part of the progress.
Well, I can tell you, man. I mean, I moved here from, the Northern Virginia and the Virginia area, and, like road rage was like a daily thing almost. And, people really can get hijacked by their anger. I use that word hijacked a lot because that is what happens often to us in our sort of default state. And, it's hijacked by comparing ourselves to others. There's all kind of ways, right? Hijacking, think the next thing, as soon as I have this, then I will be happy. All these sort of myths that we give ourselves and become hijacked by. If I get in front of that car there, then I'm right and he's wrong. And that's another thing is about being right. When you're in your default state, you're always looking to be right about something. And so you can argue the most meaningless things that are never going to go anywhere or change anybody's mind or make any difference, and you waste hours a day doing that. In fact, I did an experiment one time where I was on a beach.
Okay.
I was on a beach in Naples, Florida, where it was pretty crowded. This is about a year or so ago, and I would just sort of kind of get earshot close to people, and the number one thing people talked about was, guess what? Other people. Other people, they didn't do this. They're not that good at this. I don't think they like me. I wish they wouldn't do this. I don't like them. Whatever, whatever, whatever. And how's that going to make a difference talking about people? That's a very default, ineffective state, Um,
That's great.
so
To create those own,
there's lots of ways to be hijacked.
yeah. And by the way, I'm gonna grab my phone. I'm just kind of taking some notes and wrote down. And for anyone watching or listening, it's
I
always
welcome you to watch your recording.
then I could also do that. Yeah, that's
Oh,
another.
whatever.
This because I'm gonna name this stuff, so I just need to write it hand. But no, but the hijack by anger, the hijack by comparison, hijack by what ifs, but just being hijacked in general is what it is something.
Default state. It's
Yeah,
almost a perpetual default state. And this is part of why people start dreading Sundays. Part of why they start dreading Mondays, and it starts on Sundays. Because they're in that pattern of feeling prisoner, basically, by an unfulfilled life, an unfulfilling life, and an unactualized life. That's the default. It's unfulfilling usually. And so here's some of the questions I would ask. You want to go to the quiz?
Please, yeah, I'd love for you to, because I know originally you said, "Hey, is this someone, or are you someone that, let's say, has a job but just doesn't feel fulfilled, doesn't feel like they should?" But please go ahead with these questions.
Well, like I said earlier, I didn't say this, but I'll say it more clearly. I've been hijacked by thinking that financial success was the only measure of success without even considering what fulfilled me. And so you can definitely get hijacked by the dance for the dollar. Hey, that attracts me. And then, maybe that will sustain you. Maybe that will fulfill you. But often it does not, because it was a hijacking.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah. Please, these questions.
So here's some questions you can ask yourself. I'll say 5, okay? And there could be more, and this isn't, the only 5 questions you could ask yourself. But here's 5. Have you lost your leadership edge? That's one. Another one would be, are you successful, but something's missing? Okay. And there's a second, and a third one is, have you lost your passion? Another one is, have you lost your creativity? That's 4. And then 5 would be, have you lost who you are and what you do? And I don't mean get lost in what you're doing as a good thing. I mean, have you lost your identity, what has value for you, what you really saw yourself doing when you were a child, for instance. A lot of people give up their passion and their creativity and trade it in and sell it out even, as I said, to be hijacked by the dollar. And it's pretty proven data that happy people are kind people, and kind people, don't want to hurt others and things like that. So, I'll come back to these 5 questions, but my vision and purpose is that I create peace, power, and prosperity. How I do that, my purpose and mission, I create peace, power, and prosperity by accelerating high achievers to significant success and wholehearted fulfillment.
Understood. That wholehearted fulfillment piece is not to be understated as well, because again, you figure that you have everything, but to that point you mentioned earlier, being fulfilled by what someone else's vision is. Like, I don't even know what I like, but you go, or people, whether it be money, things, or possessions, as you stated it before, those might be things that someone else wants. And then you get those very things and aren't even aware of what makes you feel whole.
It's very possible to live 5 years, 10, 20 years in a predefined existence that doesn't really even put gasoline in your mental tank.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that big time. A couple more things. What's some advice that you would give to someone that's like, they're really just trying to get over that proverbial hump, if you will, or they were where you were in terms of, again, wanting to go into tomorrow with the right mindset, to kind of get them, on the way. And obviously they're going to go to carlloop.com and make sure they take your quiz and get your information as well. We'll do that before we get out of here. But, what, advice do you have for someone that's like really trying to move in that direction?
Yeah, no. So here's a mnemonic, right? Or a way to remember something. Just 3 letters, BLT, like a bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwich.
Delicious.
Yeah, BLT is break away. You have to learn how to break away and get off the strings of the puppet on the strings and the assembly line and all. You have to learn how to break away. And one way to do that is, so I'll give you some practical things. And my book, by the way, has over 20 experiences you can have. I call them immediate win activities. Okay, to really make an immediate change in your life. But in general, like, start having wins. Break away and start looking for wins. One is, there was a Navy admiral who said, "Get up as soon as you can. When you get up, as soon as you get up, make your bed." You remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember
absolutely.
that admiral who gave that commencement? I can't remember his name, but he said, and people, you're kind of like, well, why? Well, his point was that you would have an immediate win in your day right away. Now, you can even beat that by this: get out of bed as soon as you wake up, right away. Do not let the dread start to fill your head by laying in bed. That's a big one.
Whoa.
That's an immediate win.
That is an immediate win. It's interesting, for those folks watching, even myself, you think about, again, allowing the dread to fill your head. What does 5 minutes laying down cost you in the bed versus being
Right.
up for that 5 minutes?
Like I say, we got to swap from, sort of, reaction to circumstances to counting our wins and wonders. And so, that's one of the things I do all the time with people that I coach. What are your wins? You want to be win oriented, because you want to shift from the negativity that our minds naturally have, right? Our mind, our thinking is somehow programmed. I won't go deep into that, but it's somehow programmed into paying attention more to the negative and the problems and the half fullness of everything. So we want to reverse that to, like I say, the wins. That's a win right away. I used to lay in bed. First of all, I used to wake up in the middle of the night at 2:00 at night. This is back when I was drinking more than I should be.
Yeah.
And I quit drinking over 15 years ago.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. But, so I would wake up in the middle of the night at 2:00 because, you drink some and then you go immediately to sleep, but then you wake up totally awake. And I would stay awake for 3 or 4 hours, like 5 till 5 or 6 in the morning. There's really no point to go back to sleep. But I would try to, so I'd be in bed and I would spend hours just in dread, just in pain and the suffering of my circumstances. And so you want to get out of bed as fast as you can. That's an immediate win. It's even before you make your bed, unless you can make your bed while you're still in bed.
Then you're a superhero, apparently, because yeah, amazing. Thank you so very much for that. So for those of us watching, and I'm no longer taking notes because Carl reminded me I can just watch this again. So that's what I would also advise you all to watch this again and again and again. And the best way to learn is to teach. So something that you've learned from here, make sure you share it with someone else so it become further ingrained in your brain and as a part of your DNA. So many other things are woven into our DNA but purposefully by other things and other people and other avenues. So this is an opportunity to make sure we weave these things into our brains, into our subconscious, into our lives and hearts regularly as well. So remember those first 2 wins, and that is get out of bed immediately. That's a win even before you make your bed. So how can people find you officially? I know I mentioned it before, but I'd love for you to mention it again, where they can find you, learn more about you, your services, and even get your book.
Well, book's on carlloop.com. It's for sale right there on the website as a digital download, and it comes with 7 bonus videos. And the book is 52 Mondays. But those Mondays are spread across 7 sections, and those 7 sections spell the letter purpose, PURPOSE. Okay, so and every letter has a meaning. P is passion. And there's several Mondays about a passion, and there's a video. Every section has a video, so that's why there's 7 videos. So the video for passion is you are already that. And then it has Mondays, and then it has some other people, maybe a celebrity I've met or something like that. And then it has immediate win exercises, activities you can do. So that's how it's built. 7 sections, 52 Mondays, and every section has a video with exercises or activities. U is uniqueness. R is reimagine. What is the most extraordinary version of you? Let's reimagine that. Okay. And this is why you have to break away and realize that you get hijacked, and realize you're in your default, and realize you have to take control by turning the tide from circumstances and everything outside pushing you into being some certain way, and take control of inside up. The intrinsic version of you, not the extrinsic and the external and the systemic things that happen to you, but the version of you that you create from the inside up. And then the next P for PURPOSE, the next P is peak experiences. Those are your life is what gives you your fullness in your life is when you have flow, and when you do things that are meaningful, and when you do things that absorb you. And these are the peak experiences. It's already proven that, beyond a certain income level, it doesn't add a whole lot more aliveness or joy to your life. In fact, sometimes it can be the reverse, but I won't focus on that. I'm just saying, money as a motivator, as a transactional extrinsic motivator, starts to lose its power at a certain place in your life. And you want something of meaning and of purpose. And that's what I say. You weren't born to live the default ordinary life you were given. You're born to live the extraordinary magical life you create. So you start creating. You start creating proactiveness and experiences. The next letter O is for ownership. Know and own your unique leadership voice and purpose. Okay? I told you what mine is, my vision and my purpose, right? Create peace, power, and prosperity by accelerating high achievers to significant success and wholehearted fulfillment. Usually people have one or the other or neither, but rarely have both. And again, that is what can create some peace, power, prosperity in our world, is when people have both. And then the next letter is the S, which is scale. Now, I've talked to people, I've had 6 businesses of my own, and I've helped dozens of other businesses grow and scale and, add another 10 times to their revenue and beyond. One company helped save over $5 million over 5 years. So, scale. That's the next place. And I talk about the components and the essentials of scale in ways that give new perspective and new meaning to achieving that scale. And then the last letter is E. So again, I have 7 sections in my book. The sections are PURPOSE, and the last letter is E for expression. That's your leadership voice.
Leadership voice, expression.
Yeah. How you express yourself. Communicate. Yeah.
And that's really important as well for folks to understand how they express themselves and be able to adjust appropriately. And I want to say, I think, I can't remember the last time that I, let's say, intentionally reimagined myself. And so when you mentioned that point, that there's power in thinking like, wait a minute, I've not broken away. I went, okay, now what does the most incredible version of me look like?
Yeah, and that's the look up piece, and that's the reimagine and look up piece. So breaking away, and then realizing you're hijacked, and realizing how to be win oriented, and then looking up, and that's the most extraordinary version of you. Let's look up and find that, reimagine that, and get that. Okay, and what are your strengths? See, to be absorbed, you have to come from your strengths, not from things that are empty and meaningless to you. If you're just performing to lifeless goals, you'll be lifeless about achieving them. Unless you bring who you are into what you do, extraordinary is not available.
Bring who you are into what you do.
Yes,
folks,
sir.
Remember that. Bring who you are into what you do. Carl, I'm good. I'm not going to lie. I'm good. I'm only saying I'm good because we're having this interview right now, and I found you. I'm just going to own that right now. So I appreciate you taking the time here with us. And hopefully you'll come back again, and we'll do this again a little bit more to dive even deeper into more about reimagining, obviously, and the purpose piece, and even more, because I feel like there's some different levels that we could touch and how people improve themselves, and obviously how they look at Mondays, but more importantly how they look at themselves. So hopefully you'd be open to that.
Yeah, let's talk again. Let's definitely talk again.
Absolutely.
And
Well,
follow up.
are you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let's follow up and talk again.
For
You
sure.
know,
Are you
like
on, are you on social media? I
oh
know.
yeah, you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find me on Instagram
Okay,
and
awesome.
and and YouTube.
And YouTube. Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing, amazing. And I'm sorry I cut you off. What point were you going to make just now?
That's all. I want to. What I would like to do, if you're open to it, is we can set up something more specific and give a challenge to people.
Mm,
Okay. And one of the tools that I teach people, and this is one of many, but when you look up and you start to see a different version of yourself, you're going to be confronted. You're going to be confronted when you start pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And so, one of the tools I teach people is how to say no to the no.
ah, how to say no to the no. I
Yeah.
definitely look forward to jumping into that. Carl, thank you very much for this time. I know we're going to spend more together. And remember, folks, if you're watching this right now, make sure at any point you go to carlloop.com and get your 52 Mondays book. And with that, obviously, discussing 52 Mondays through purpose, and then digging a little bit deeper into yourself and taking a quiz as well. So we do more than just reimagine our Mondays. Maybe we begin to reimagine ourselves even more. So, Carl, thank you again for being here. Remember, folks watching and listening, if you care about yourself and certainly those who are around you, then you will probably share this or invite someone to watch it, because we are a product of the people that we hang around, and we want to believe that in every sense of the word. So share this and let's create the community that we say we want to be and see. And remember that you're good, you're great, you're worth it. And then more than anything else, that effort on fire beats knowledge on ice. This is Stan Pearson II. You already here first. Have a good one. Peace.
Thank you, Stan.
Thank you.